billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I greet you, my brothers and sisters, with the noble and universal greeting of peace, the greeting that has been used by the prophets and messengers of our universal creator. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukr to Allah. We are here, and I've been looking forward to this congregation and sharing with us again today along our path of learning, growth and development, spiritual growth, spiritual development. And I'm very grateful to have this opportunity and have you join me here and to be part of a community of people that are interested in actually developing a relationship with Allah or experiencing being closer to Allah. Remember, the Quran says, if you remember me, Allah says, I will remember you. Hadith Qudsi says, if you take one step towards Allah, Allah will take 10 steps towards you. So the idea is to experience a closeness with Allah. The Quran says, prostrate and draw closer. You understand? It says, adore God and draw closer. Become aware of your Creator. Become aware of the greatness and graciousness and the gifts of Allah. The Quran is encouraging us to become aware of the power of Allah, Allah's privileging nature, and Allah's gifts of living a pleasant, pleasing, pleasurable experience in this world through our death and beyond. The Quran is encouraging us to worship Allah, to presence Allah in our lives. That we are to presence Allah. Now I must tell you this, as I was preparing for this talk today, I was thinking that in my life, many years ago, if you told me about things religious, I would find it so boring, and it would be like so irrelevant to me. To talk about God and to talk about our Creator and to talk about Allah and to talk about religion and rituals and all that was so like far away from me. And today I'm like so fired up. I am willing from the depths of my being to talk about Allah, His greatness, His graciousness, His gifts. I am willing to remember Allah often. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah, hearts experience assurance. I remember Allah individually, by myself and with others, and I feel this assurance within me. And the Quran says, remember Allah abundantly that you may prosper. And I'm not doing it because somebody told me, you got to do this. Read your tasbih, or do this and do that. Read this so many times. In my own experience, in my own life, guidance is the thing I realized that is the most beneficial thing to me. Guidance, what is guidance? Guidance is that truth that allows us to live with a higher level of awareness and a higher level of experiencing and a higher level of expression and a higher level of appreciating and enjoying. And guidance, true guidance, takes us out of the darkness into the light. You see, the Quran says, bring to Allah a purified heart. Guidance, the Quran is a book, a guidance, a kitab. It is a healing of the diseases in your heart. So if you're not healing diseases in your heart, you're not really receiving guidance. And I just love it when I feel more and more spiritually secure. I just love it to feel more and more at peace. I just love it. You understand? Salam. Peace. It's not a word for me. It's not a greeting for me. It's an experience for me. Salam is an experience for me. Islam, submission to peace, is an experience for me. And guidance guides me to peace. Peace is the true freedom. And true freedom is peace. And you can only get into peace. Peace is not like, we were having problems and now we're not having problems. I want a state of relief where there is no problems. Then I'm in relief. That's peace. That's not peace, that's relief. That's a very big difference. Peace is beyond problems. You understand? And so the Quran is a guidance to humanity and is guiding us to our Creator, that we may experience assurance in our hearts as we remember our Creator, and that we may, as we remember our Creator, experience being guided. Verily, those who believe in Allah, He will guide their hearts. Whether you like it or not, if you believe in Allah, your heart will be guided by Allah. You understand? You'll be having an awareness and an experience beyond a child madrasa education and what I would call a religious identity. You see, most people have a religious identity. Shukr for me, I don't have a religious identity, in the sense that I am not living as an identity. I have submitted identity. I am a submitter. A submitter has no identity. Identity is what, like you separate. I am a believer. Among all people, there are believers. Believers are people whom everybody is safe from, the Prophet ﷺ said. So what I'm saying to us is that you can go to madrasa and have your mind filled up with ideas of this is what's right, this is what's wrong. I'm not saying it's bad or good, right or wrong. I'm just saying that as a grown-up person, I want to experience awareness of my Creator as a grown-up can. As a grown-up individual, as an adult, I want to submit and experience the peace. See, you can go to madrasa and have your ideas in your head, all these ideas. So some of us think like, it's all about the right philosophy. And if you are somebody who's speaking the right philosophy, then that's the ultimate end of it all. The Quran says, bring to Allah a purified heart. It doesn't say have these very interesting philosophies. It's an actual experience of drawing closer to Allah, experiencing security. There's one security for all human beings, and it's with Allah, our universal Creator. And I'm saying to you, by receiving guidance, real guidance, you go beyond insecurity. No longer will your hearts be diseased, and no longer will you be left to stray. You see, Allah says, and we'll speak about this, that there are people in whose hearts there's a disease, and they are left to stray. Now, I was one of those people until I chose to have a relationship with Allah, until I chose to experience submission with Allah. Allah guided me to Him and to submit to Him and to experience an assurance that is only available through my Creator and with my Creator. A peace within my being that is only because you draw closer to your Creator. You're more interested in the Creator of the world than you are in His creation. Not to say you're not interested in the creation, but you're more interested in the Creator of the world. The Creator of the world alone really is actual. We are created apparent beings in an apparent world. When you are more interested in Allah than you are interested in yourself, because Allah gave you yourself. Allah caused us to exist. When we are more interested in Allah than we are interested in ourselves and our existence in our lives, because Allah gave us our lives. We are more interested in Allah than the people and things in our lives. Allah gave us the people and things in our lives. You get what I mean? So, I shukr to Allah. Allah has guided me. And I value that guidance. That guidance has brought me into a state of peace. I was saying to you, people have a religious identity. They have this philosophy that we have the right philosophy. You all got the wrong philosophy? We got the right philosophy. You see, the Hadith tells us that there will be over 70 or so groups of Muslims, so-called Muslims. But only one will be the correct one. You get what I mean? So people wonder which particular philosophy is the correct one. It's not that. It's the people who worship Allah as Allah is to be worshipped. And it's the people who are guided by Allah and brought closer to Allah and kept closer to Him and experience that assurance and that security and live in this world as secure individuals, believers. Mu'min means the secure. And we live in this world presencing Allah and His power, His privileging, His pleasant, pleasing, pleasurable experiences. You get what I mean? That is given to us. We appreciate. We shakuran. So, I'm so grateful for guidance, because guidance has taken me out of ignorance, superstition, arrogance. Guidance has literally taken me out of my mind and philosophies and stories, which is what submission is. And Guidance has guided me to my Creator, who alone knows. I don't know, and no other human being knows. Only Allah alone is the knowing. He gave us the ability to be aware, and we can become aware, but Allah alone is the knowing. You know what I mean? Now I am aware of Allah because I'm aware of Allah is the knowing. See, if you're not aware of Allah, you won't know Allah is the knowing. So, you can only have faith in Allah when you are aware of Allah. How can you have faith in something that you're not aware of? I'm aware that Allah is the all-knowing. I'm aware that Allah is the all-powerful. I'm aware that Allah is sufficient for me. I'm aware that Allah is loving and compassionate. Allah is the merciful. I can register in my awareness Allah is greatness and His graciousness. Allah is relating to me. I am among those who are responding to Allah, and Allah is relating to me. How can you respond to Allah if you're not aware of Allah, and if you are not being conscious of Allah? If you're not Allah conscious, then how can you respond to Allah's relating to you? So it's so many things to share with us today. Inshallah, I'll do justice to it. The first thing I want to say is that when we live our lives from a religious identity with philosophy, we are more identified with religious philosophy than we are interested in Allah, we will not experience Allah relating to us, and we will not experience Allah drawing Him closer to us. So people might say to me, Ashraf, this is a very funny thing. You never went to madrasa, you never became a Maulana, you never became an alim. Allah alone is the only alim. Nobody can become an alim. Nobody can become alim. Allah is alim. We can become aware and teach other people, but nobody is an alim. Allah alone is an alim. There's no authority but Allah. Those of us who know Allah can see very clearly. You understand who Allah is, and we have recognition, and we connect with Allah, and we experience Allah's supportive nature. So somebody might say, how come, Ashraf? You never went to madrasa, you don't even, if we saw you on the street, you don't look very spiritual. You know what I mean? Because I'm not into the appearance and the image and the identity. I am a believer. In my heart, there is closeness to Allah. You'll see it in my behaviors. You know what I mean? You'll see it if you know me. You'll know me as a believer in terms of my being and my relating and my, what I talk about and what I do in the world and what I'm all about. You'll know I'm a believer from my being, what I'm being. You know what I mean? And my behavior. You won't just look at me and say, oh, he looks very religious. You get what I mean? And shukr to Allah for that. I don't want to be, lost in that kind of a trance with Satan. Allah says there are people who say they believe, but they don't believe. They say they believe in Allah in the last day, but they don't believe in Allah in the last day. The Quran says that in their hearts is a disease, and they are astray, and they are left to stray, and that disease is increased. The Quran says, woe to those people who stand in prayer, but in their hearts they lack the smallest of kindnesses. You see, if somebody is not aware of Allah, they're not aware of Allah's compassion and mercy, Allah's beingness towards us, His love towards us, then they cannot be in their compassion and mercy and love and kindness. Allah is Ar-Rauf, the kind. Those of us who are aware of Allah and aware of His kindness, we receive that kindness and we aspire to express being kind in this world. We're going to talk about that. I've got a situation that I'd like to share with you. But I was telling you about, actually submitting, actually believing in Allah, actually drawing closer to Allah. And guidance is that. That guidance that Allah alone is the actual, the real, Tawheed. And as an adult, what it means to have Tawheed. Or you could have just gone to madrasa as a child, and these ideas and philosophy filled in your head, and you grew up as an underdeveloped child, and just do this and don't do that, and this is right and this is wrong, do this ritual, don't do that ritual, do this how many times, don't do that time, these are things like this. And you could be living your grown-up adult life as an underdeveloped spiritual person with just your child understanding of what you learned about Islam, fortunately for me, I'm having an experience, an actual experience of submission. I'm bringing to Allah a purified heart. Fortunately for me, the guidance is taking me to a place of operating in the world at a higher level, to see things that I've never seen before, to be aware like I've never been aware. And everything that you become aware of truth, it's encouraging and it's supportive. Beyond ignorance, beyond superstition, beyond arrogance, there's humility. The Quran says, the heavens and the earth were created that we may recognize the power of Allah. You see? If you are living your life as an underdeveloped child who went to madrasa and learnt all this and do that, and you grow up and the rest of your life you're not interested in bringing to Allah a purified heart, you're not really interested in recognizing the power of Allah. The heavens and the earth were created that human beings and jinn may be aware of the power of Allah. If you're living your life and you're not aware of Allah's power and His privileging, but you're doing all the religious things, you have a religious identity. You get what I mean? You haven't really submitted. Remember what the Quran says when the Bedouin Arabs came to the Prophet and said, but we are believers. The Prophet was given the guidance through the revelation to say to them, do not say you're a believer, for Iman has not entered into your hearts. Do not say you're a believer, for Iman has not entered into your heart. Now, I'm not saying this to embarrass anybody, because for the most time in my life, Iman was not in my heart. But Iman is in my heart now. You know, don't feel bad. Shaitan will tell you, take it personally, feel bad, attack him, he's attacking you. I'm only sharing with you what the Quran is telling us. It's guidance to humanity. You too can go beyond Satan worship and worship Allah. You too can go beyond unconsciousness and living subconsciously. And you can become an aware human being, and you can experience peace, knowing the truth that is liberating of us. Haq, truth, that sets us beyond superstition, free of superstition, ignorance and arrogance. You can awaken from that satanic trance that human beings are in. The Quran says, until guidance comes to them, and those who receive the guidance and remembers Allah, they will no longer be insecure. But those who fail to remember Allah, theirs will be a depressed life. Theirs will be a depressed life. We're going to come to this now. This is very important what I'm getting towards here. It's a real life problem which I'm going to share with you, that people are experiencing. So, if I am becoming aware of the power of Allah, and Allah's privileging of me, because the Quran says you are created, the human beings and the jinns were created that they may recognize that Allah created the heavens and the earth, that they may recognize Allah's power. And it says that we human beings were created, delivered from our mother's wombs, given intellect, hearing and sight, intellect and feeling, that we may be grateful. Human beings were created and given that we may be grateful. There's so much of myths and superstition that is in the popular, Muslim culture of today, which I don't know if you can call it Muslim. There's so much of myths and fallacies and lies, and people are lost. And I'm going to show it to you what I mean, because it's something that we got to talk about. We're going to talk about this and admit the truth that we might say we believe, but we're not real believers. Iman has not entered into our hearts. The Quran says, do not say you're a believer, for faith has not entered into your heart. Rather say you're one who is submissive in religion, or one who has embraced Islam. So being submissive in religion and embracing Islam doesn't mean that you're a believer. The Quran says it. You get what I mean? And so the Quran says things like, that invoke me and I will surely respond. Who is it talking to? The believers. Whose du'as get answered? The believers' du'as get answered. So my point is, there is this powerful presence and the privileging presence. And if you're living with that understanding of a child, through a child's mind, because you learned when you were a child about Allah, you never had any adult education around Allah and guidance around Allah, you are not really going to experience Allah drawing you closer to Him, drawing you closer to Him. Remember the Quran says, remember me, I'll remember you. Prostrate and draw closer. return to Allah. You know, those who turn back. The Quran says many times. Hadith Qudsi takes one step you take, Allah takes 10. The idea is for us to get closer to Allah in the world. If you're living your life and you're not getting closer to Allah, you're not really bringing to Allah a purified heart. The Quran says neither will your wealth nor your children, not your business, not your family is going to benefit you. Only those who bring to Allah a purified heart. The Quran is a guidance to purify the hearts of people, if they receive the guidance. I was telling you how the guidance has changed me, guided me to be more aware, has changed me. How I'm living is very different. It's so empowering to know that you have Allah, Allah is sufficient for you, compared to living without Allah awareness. If you don't know Allah, you won't know that Allah is sufficient for you. You understand? That superstition that Allah is testing us and I'm going through problems, so it must be a test. What does Allah tell us? If you have faith, and if you conduct yourself honorably, whether you're a man or you're a woman, you will have a life that is natural. That is what Allah is telling us in the Quran. If you have faith, the Quran is guiding us to submit to Allah, to become aware of Allah, to recognize that Allah is the one who is benefiting us, has and is. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. There's no human being, there's nothing in the created world can really benefit ourselves and each other and benefit the world. Allah alone is the sole benefactor, the benefiter. We who want to draw closer to Allah will understand. Satan will tell us, no, somebody else is caring. I never got my parents caring. I need my husband's caring. I need my wife's caring. I need my children's caring. Allah's caring. We're looking for benefit in people. I'll feel okay when somebody cares for me, but we're not aware of Allah and He's caring and how He benefits us. When you're a believer, your first relationship is with Allah. First relationship is with Allah. The Prophet ﷺ guided us to Allah. All the Prophets guided us to Allah. Anybody who guides you to Allah is doing the Prophet's work. If somebody is guiding you to themselves, I am not telling you anything from myself. I've never told you, and I will never tell you anything from myself, because who am I to know anything? Allah alone knows. No authorities other than Allah. The Quran says, let's not take from among ourselves lords and patrons. Let's not make a hierarchical system of now clergy. You the big shot, you the small shot, you the little shot, you the tiny shot. Let's go beyond that. Who's the big shot? Then this tiny shot listens to the big shot, and and all that group kind of politics and all. The Quran is not for all that. The Quran is for turning to Allah and letting Allah guide, submission to Allah. And so a lot of people are in their religious identity and they wonder why Allah is not guiding them closer to Him. They're wondering. They say, I've had people come to me, people who are much older than me when I was much younger, and they come to me and said, I've gone and done this and I've done that and I've gone here and there in the name of Allah and this and that. I don't feel connected at all. And here I am, a person like me, is being drawn to Allah. Why? Why does Allah draw me closer and closer to Him, and yet religious people with religious identities and living in the world as very religious, holy moly, and even Maulana Guru, why are they not drawn closer to Allah? Why is Allah not guiding their hearts? You know why? Because we're not aware of Allah, and we're not interested in becoming aware of Allah, and we're not interested in drawing closer to Allah. We have a philosophy. We want to be right about our philosophy. If you are into philosophies, you are in the wrong group of people. You are in the people that are astray. I'm not saying that you mustn't have a proper understanding and express that proper understanding. But I'm just saying, if you just have ideas in your head about God and ideas of what is right, but you're not really aware of our universal Creator, Almighty Allah, if you're not experiencing assurance in your heart, if you haven't become aware and drawing closer, all those ideas are from an identity. And you have, in a Muslim world, which group are you in? We are in this group. No, you are in that group. This group is right. That group is right. Which group are we in? Submitters to Allah, believers. So when a person humbles themselves before Allah, when you realize no human being, nothing created compares to Allah, the benefit that Allah is to us, nobody can be, in any way and every way, and you make that, you have in your heart a humility, that Allah is the creator and the creation doesn't compare. No matter how good people are in the world, they don't compare to Allah. You get what I mean? When you have that kind of awareness, nobody, not even me, I can't depend on other people. There are people living in this world depending on other people. They must love me, they must care for me, they must pay me. There's people living in this world saying, you know what, I must take care of others and look after them, and I will, people must depend on me. I'm the big shot, they must depend on me. There are people living in this world saying, you know what, I must never depend on anybody, I must depend on me, I depend on me. If you do any of my courses in the future, you will learn how to draw closer to Allah. You will understand what Satan whispers to you and how Satan actually puts barriers. We as human beings have been given an awareness beyond the animals. We are insan. We are higher level beings. We have been given the ability to be aware of Allah and to experience Allah consciousness. Shaitan doesn't want you to claim that potential and that possibility of great security. If you become aware of Allah, you will be drawn closer and closer to Allah. As you take one step, Allah will take 10. And you will experience a security that nothing in the world can give you. And you will know that Allah is our refuge, the worship of Allah. You will presence Allah in your life. You will presence the power of Allah in your life. You will presence the privileging of Allah in your life. You will presence that gifts of Allah in our life, the pleasing, pleasant, pleasurable, natural experiences that we can have in this world. You will presence that until you are aware there is Allah for whom you can presence. And that's what worship is. Worship is presencing Allah. It's the adoring of Allah. It's the praising of Allah. You get what I mean? You can presence Allah. So a lot of people are just doing religious rituals. They're not really presencing Allah. They're not really becoming aware of Allah, experiencing security with Allah in their salah or in their life or in their imam. They're not. They just, that identity continues. So if a person is really interested in drawing closer to Allah, you can apply yourself beyond the satanic promptings. You can look at what's keeping you from drawing closer to Allah. And you can presence Allah in the power, the privileging and the favors in your life. Worshipping Allah is our refuge. We require a refuge. People don't even know what a refuge is. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Read so well. You don't know what the word refuge means. That we require, Allah is the refuge of the believer. We are the claimers of the refuge. What is that state of refuge? That we feel secure and assured with Allah in this world. While we are in this world, we feel assured because we are aware of Allah. As an adult, we connected with Allah. When you connected with Allah like this, He will draw you closer and closer to Him. You can have a religious identity and you can beg Allah, I want to get closer and closer to you, I want to beg and get close. You won't get closer and closer because there's no humility. There's no Allah is beyond this world and beyond anybody, including me. The human being that humbles themselves before their Creator, who realizes, I did not create me, I did not create my world, I did not continue me, I do not continue my world. Allah who gave me existence in this world, Allah will give me existence in the world beyond. Allah created me as human being, insan. Allah created me with abilities beyond the animals to be aware of Him. How wonderful it is to be aware of Allah. Can we be aware of anything in this world or anybody in this world and be impressed with that? And does that compare with Allah? If you're not aware of Allah, you won't be impressed with Allah. You'll be more impressed with people, you'll be returning to people and things and philosophies and all that sort of thing. Those of us who are aware of Allah are impressed with Allah. And we know that Allah is the incomparable, the incomprehensible. We are aware the beauty of the one that alone really exists compared to the creation. You get what I mean? For if you are prepared to humble yourself and say, because of Allah I am and because of Allah I continue. Because of Allah I am cared for and considered. I have hands and fingers, I have air to breathe, I have a mind to reason. Allah has cared for us and continues us. Allah champions us. Allah gave us guidance of the Quran to tell us what our purpose is here and how we are to live in this world. A guidance. You see? So, if you live your life in a religious identity with philosophies and you wonder why Allah is not drawing you closer and keeping you closer to Him, it's because you are not humbling yourself and you're not really wanting to be interested in Allah and to presence Allah, to become more and more aware of Allah. If you're really keen on becoming really more and more aware of Allah, you will experience Allah drawing you closer and keeping you close to Him more and more. But if you are more interested in your child understanding and turning to people and this world, and you just think Allah consciousness means living in fear and threat of Allah, if you think that's what Allah consciousness is, you will never experience Allah as your refuge, drawing you closer and closer, supporting you in guidance, having your heart purified. You'll remain the same human being that you always were. You live and die without any learning, growth and development. There'll be no change in you, your being. There'll be no change in your personality. There'll be no change in the way you live your life. You see, this is the thing. Do we want to recognize the greatness of Allah and experience it? Those who live with Iman and those who live with Amal, those who live with being honorable, do you want to live as a human being that is honorable? Do you want to care for you, your body, your life? Do you want to show up with the potential that Allah has given us to live in a way that benefits us? Not everybody wants to. Have Iman, connect with Allah and be a believer, and have Amal, to be a human being that plays a positive role in your life, a beneficial role in your life. You see? If you don't connect with Allah with humility, that Allah that is always there, who is drawing us closer, through your own separation in your own mind, through your own thinking, I am existing as a separate identity, you will keep yourself from experiencing Allah drawing you closer. And if you don't want to live with Iman and Amal, if you don't want to say, I want to play a better role in my life, let me tell you something. For close to 10 years, I smoked cigarettes. I poisoned my body. I was highly destructive. I no longer do that. I'm caring for me, my body, my life. The Quran tells us about halal and tayyib. It tells us about caring for our bodies. The Prophet ﷺ was an exemplar of being fit and strong and healthy and exercising and all that sort of thing. But the people are lost. Not only are they not believers, they say they believe, but they're not believers. But they say they follow the Prophet, but they're not following the Prophet. They're not really wanting to be the best of people on the planet, to show other people that we live without destroying ourselves with our own hands. Remember, Shaitan doesn't want you to connect with Allah and experience and presence Him in your life. Shaitan wants to distract you from Allah and getting closer to Allah. We are the people of the refuge. We worship Allah, not Shaitan. And so we will draw closer and closer, and Allah will draw us closer and closer. We take one step, He'll take 10 towards us. In our lives, as we live, with every passing day, we will draw closer, we'll experience more security. And we are people of Allah, and we are people of championing the Rasulullah. That his guidance of how to be a human being and how to live as a human being, real, not I'll just cut my beard now, but I'll poison my body, I'll kill myself through my eating habits. Now I'm following the sunnah. This is all satanic. This is satanic. If you really are in, the Quran says, do not with your own hands destroy yourself. Don't let Satan lead you astray. When you live as an honorable human being, respecting your body, respecting your time, your energy, respecting what Allah has given you, respecting life, being a person that demonstrates that, that's Iman and Amal. That's Iman and Amal. For you, there'll be a life tayyibun. What is tayyibun, whether you're a man or a woman? If you're living like that, if you're recognizing Allah's benefit to us, that nobody can be a benefit to us, and if you are interested in being a person that is living naturally and wholesomely in this world, and you want to become that person. Remember, I wasn't that person, but I became that person because I wanted to. Allah says you will have what you strive for. People say, no, Allah is not giving to us. He's testing us. He's withholding from us. Allah says you will have what you strive for. See, this is the myths, the superstition in the so-called Muslim community. That Allah is testing us. What is the test really? Whether you will draw closer to Allah or you'll worship Satan. Whether you'll choose to live as a more honorable being or you'll live in an unconscious, subconscious state. Whether you will choose a tayyibun life, to live naturally. Allah said He put love and compassion in our hearts. He put love and compassion in our hearts. That we may dwell with each other in tranquility. Do you pursue that? Do you want to be a benefit to other people? Do you want other people who are connected with Allah and are being a benefit to them to enter your life and receive them in your life? Do you want that iman? If you have iman, whether you're man or woman, if you have amal, whether you're man or woman, there is for you a life tayyibun. You will have what you strive for. I wanted to become a believer, I am a believer. I ask Allah to strengthen me in my iman. I wanted to become an honorable human being and play a positive role in my life. I've become that to the degree I can, and I am being that. I wanted to be this person that benefits other people. I'm doing that in this moment, instead of being a nuisance in the society and being destructive. I want people who come into my life at a higher level, that we can be together as a community of people worshipping Allah, behaving honorably, learning, growing and developing, and living with each other in harmony. Allah says He put love and compassion in our hearts, that we may dwell with each other in tranquility. So let me just tell you something that's very sad. That most people think, this is part of the superstition, most people think I'm a believer because I said the kalema. I said, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I said that, so I'm a believer. The Quran doesn't say that. Tell me, where does the Quran say that all you have to do is just say the kalima and you're a believer? Tell me where that's. It does not said anywhere in the Quran, as far as I'm concerned. The Quran says, in opposition to that, do you think you'll say that you believe and you won't be tested to see if you're a real believer? You understand? It says there are people who say they believe in Allah and the last day, but they don't believe. You get what I mean? So it says there are people who stand in prayer, but their hearts lack the smallest of kindnesses. They stand in prayer. Are those people believers? That's not what the Quran is saying. I'm going to read to you something very sad for a learning for you. About 3 days ago, a Muslim sister posted this on one of the chats. She's desperate. I'm going to read it as best as I can. This is done as a learning. It's not done to shame anybody, and is done to give guidance to people how they can progress if they want to. The beauty of guidance, that anybody at any time receives guidance, they can go to a higher level of awareness and experiencing with Allah. Security and satisfaction awaits you. So I'm reading this not to blame or shame anybody, but to tell you something. She writes as an anonymous participant on a Facebook group, Assalamu alaikum. I write this message with such a heavy and sad heart. My du'as go out to all the ladies like myself who silently bear the abuse in marriages. I'm married for 15 years with many kids. I'm not going to tell you. I shouldn't have said how many years. Okay, but I won't say how many kids. I endured so much pain during my marriage, from physical, emotional, sexual, and verbal. So you might think she must have married a hooligan, right? I see so many people like myself stuck in these marriages because there's no way out. That's what she believes. With Allah, He finds the way out from sources unknown, ways unexpected. She's not speaking like a believer. You understand? She doesn't really trust in Allah. The Quran says, trust in Allah. Place your trust in Allah. Allah says, invoke me, I will respond. You've got to trust in Allah. The believers trust in Allah. There's no trust here. I'm not blaming her. I'm just telling you. Where do we stand a chance of survival, especially financially? How will we be able to work and provide for ourselves on our own? Some of us don't have any family to fall back on. So here we go. She's more interested in her survival than in thanking Allah for her life and her ability to experience breathing air and being a human being. She's concerned with her survival. She's not seeing that Allah gave her reason. Allah is the one who gives rozi. Allah is the provider. She's trying to provide for herself. See? She's thinking where she's going to get a job. She's trying to think with her own mind. You see? She made salam. I'm assuming she's a Muslim. I haven't read this before. I'm reading it for the first time actually. Somebody sent it to me. I was studying when I got married and stopped because my husband didn't want me to work, saying he would take care of me. Sadly, he failed me in every way. Now, Allah is the only one that can take care of us. We putting our trust in other people is going to end up with disappointment, right? And somebody telling you they're going to take care of you, Allah is taking care of. Allah is the giver of rose. Allah will send you people through whom you will receive from. But you can see Muslim people thinking they're very smart. This is what's happening here. I'm married to a person who is learned in deen. Now, this is a shock. I was thinking, we are talking to believers and Muslims, ladies making salam, and she's talking about the sexual abuse and all that. She says, I am married to a person who's learned in deen. Now I'm asking you people, let's reason. Allah has given us reason. Can she be so smart, if she's talking like this, to say this man is learned in deen? Is a man learned in deen if his wife is complaining? Either she's mad and making up a story. Maybe this man who's very smart spiritually is married a mad woman and she's making up a story. I don't know. Maybe she's making up a story. Who knows? Right? But I was studying I'm married to a man who is learned in deen. If you're married to a man who's learned in deen and you're experiencing abuse, it cannot really be learned in deen. Who's the hero of our town, who's the head of the Jamaat and community work, but yet behind closed doors at home, he is like a monster to me and the kids. No one would ever believe me. I might be finding a hard time. Maybe this could be another group made a story to be against the type of people she's talking about. Maybe. I don't know. Allah knows. But I can tell you from my personal experience, I've worked with women who have been failed by very so-called religious husbands and have been failed by so-called religious experience. I know them personally. This one I don't know. Maybe this is, you know how you get different sects in religiosity? Maybe this is one sect of people pointing a finger at other people. Maybe this is people who are against people who are, let's say, learned in deen, who's the hero of our town, who heads up the Jamaat. Maybe there are people who are against people who are heading up the Jamaat and making up the story about them. I don't know. Allah forgive me if that's true. And does community work, but yet behind closed doors at home, he's like a monster to me and the kids. Are there people like this in the world? If you are one of them, please let me know, because maybe people are just making up stories. No one would even believe me. I'm having a hard time believing her. Maybe this is a made-up story. But you know what? Personally, from my own experience, when people are not into Iman, and people are not into recognizing Allah, and He's benefiting of us, and recognizing the power of Allah, recognizing the privileging of Allah, recognizing the gifts of Allah, and if people are not into being of benefit to themselves and benefit to humanity, there are people like that. They say they're believers. Now I'm asking you, where does it say in the Quran that all you have to say is, I said the kalima, so I'm a believer? Where does it say? The Quran says, do you think you'll say you believe and we won't test you? You understand? That are you a real believer? What is the identity of a Muslim? I'm asking you. Is the identity of a Muslim somebody who says the kalima and just eats halal and doesn't worry about whether it's tayyib or not? Is that the identity? Is this what we think? The identity of a learned person is somebody who filled up their head with philosophy, religious philosophy. Is this what we are thinking? Because what is the identity of a Muslim? For me, the identity of a Muslim is one who is aware of Allah and Allah is benefiting of them. One who is choosing to go beyond Satan worshipping that keeps us from becoming aware of Allah and Allah is benefiting of us. Somebody who's choosing to presence Allah in their life beyond the existential abandonment. That's what, to me, is a real Muslim, claiming refuge with Allah. A real Muslim to me is somebody who wants to play a beneficial role in their life, halal and tayyib, in every way, respect their lives, their bodies, respect life, and respect other people, and be a benefit to themselves. That's what a real Muslim is according to the Quran that I'm reading. And there's only one Quran as far as I know. And it is, a real Muslim is one who wants to be a benefit to humanity, who live with love and compassion in their hearts and receive other people with love and compassion in their hearts. So, could it really be a person learned in deen? Could it really be that a person learned in deen is not interested in love and compassion in their hearts for their partner? Because the Quran says, We put love and compassion in your hearts that you may take partners from among yourselves and dwell with each other in tranquility. Can somebody really be learned in deen? If this is true, I don't know. I can't, it doesn't make sense to me as a reader of the Quran, as a benefiter from the Quran. Because if you really learn it in deen, you would be one who would want to express the attributes of Allah. I'm compassionate, I'm loving, I'm kind, I'm generous. You would be that. You won't be like a monster, as this person says here. I am so scared to go to the Jamaat. I am so scared to go to Jamia or any other organization for help, because it seems like everyone says to the woman to make sabr. I am so scared to go to the Jamia or any other organization for help, because it seems like everyone says to the woman to make sabr. Now let me tell you from my personal experience. Maybe this person is against the Jamiat and any other organization, right? I don't know. But I can tell you that I've known women personally who went to the Jamiat in similar situations and they have done nothing. Bureaucracy, red tape, stories, and they were failed by religious organizations. A lot of women in this case. So it could be true. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So, and everybody says to the woman to make sabr. Of course they're going to say that, because nobody's going to say that, are we really Muslims, firstly? I mean, because it means confronting the status quo of the current situation that we have going on in the world, where Muslim identity is, I said the kalima, I've got some philosophy, and I eat halal. But not really being like the Prophet. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So everybody says they should make sabr. You know what sabr is? Sabr is get guidance from Allah. Turn to Allah. So she wants to turn to her husband firstly. He failed her. Now she wants to turn to the Jamiat. Obviously they, turning to human beings, what you're going to get. So I'm not blaming the man, I'm not blaming the woman. I'm just saying this is the Muslim community. They don't know about Allah. They don't know that never despair of the mercy of your Lord. Your Lord forgives all sins. Never despair. It is disbelieving people that despair. Never. Those who know Allah, we will never despair. We are believers. It sounds like she's despairing, doesn't it? If she is a real person. And we don't turn to people. There's no authorities. Allah is the authority. We feel secure with Allah no matter what is going on. Sabr is when you feel the joy that in this situation, no matter how bad it looks, I have Allah who will never fail me. I have Allah to protect me. I have Allah to progress me. I have Allah to prosper me. That's what sabr is. Feeling absolutely wonderful about having Allah who is sufficient for you. If you're a real believer, that's how you would feel. I wish there was an organization who could help us women stuck in these type of marriages. Well, there is. It's the Quran. If you really want to understand the Quran. It is Iman. You understand? It is our responsibility to become more interested in Iman, the guidance of the Quran, the guidance of Islam, not the guidance of so-called people like this. I want to make a WhatsApp support group for us women to be a support and encouragement to one another. Maybe she's real. I don't know if she's going to show up on a WhatsApp. Maybe I should contact her and tell her that here's my lecture. I'm thinking about sending her this lecture and telling her, you know what? The support you require is not from each other, it's from Allah. The support you require is from somebody who is a believer, who will guide you to Allah, who will guide you to experience the support of Allah. Because people wonder. I said, worshipping Allah is my refuge, and invoking Allah is my salvation. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Invoking Allah is my refuge. Worshipping Allah is my refuge. Invoking Allah is my salvation. That means, if you are a believer and you know how to make dua properly, Allah will never withhold from you. The Quran says, invoke me and I will surely respond, except those that are too arrogant. You see, when people turn away from Allah, this is arrogance. When people turn to other people, this is arrogance. This lady doesn't know she's arrogant. She doesn't know why her prayers are not being answered. I told you one thing. I said, if you humble yourself before Allah, and if your relationship with Allah is more important than any other relationship, you will experience Allah taking you closer and closer to Him. And I'm telling you something else. It's Allah is my refuge as a believer. If I, as a believer, and am interested in living a natural life, Allah will ensure my satisfaction. Because if you have iman, and if you have amal, if you're a believer, and if you conduct yourself honorably, naturally, in support of yourself, your body, your life, if you respect yourself, your life, and Allah, whether you're male or female, if this is a sister and she's real, then there is tayyibun in this world. There's a life tayyibun. There is tayyibun in this world. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So how come she is not feeling a life tayyibun? The answer is because there's no iman, there's no amal. You understand? She doesn't know Allah's respect for her. She doesn't respect herself. She's with somebody who's brainwashed her and himself and everybody to think that he's got iman and amal. And in the meantime, if this is true, both of them are equally lost. That's why the Quran says, for a man that is natural, there's a woman that is natural. For a woman that is natural, there's a man that's natural. For a man, there's a woman. For a woman, there's a woman. Man. And if you are unnatural, if you're living without iman, if you're living without amal, then there is a partner that is just as unnatural as you. She's not living naturally. You get what I mean? They don't know. They don't know, and some of them don't want to know. So I want to make a WhatsApp group for us women to support and encouragement to one another. Allah is our support and Allah is the encouragement. Shukr to Allah, have Allah. I would need help to manage the group, and if there's any counselors, etc., who can advise without charging it would be great. I think she's referring to me. A request for du'as. We make du'a that she reads the Quran with understanding, that she really pursues iman in this world, that she chooses to live naturally, then you won't be with an unnatural human being. You get what I mean? So I don't know. Let's see. Maybe I'll make this lecture available to her and see where it goes. But I don't know if she'll hear a word of what I'm saying, because they're living in a trance of they're believers and they're with believers. But iman and amal, this is what the Quran is telling us. Shukr to Allah. I apologize for the extended length, but this was an emergency broadcast and a response to this woman, and I'm sure I will forward this lecture to her, inshallah. All praise, glory, and thanks is due to Allah Almighty's choicest blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.